A year ago, eggs were the most talked about item in the American grocery store. In the spring of 2025, the average price of a dozen eggs climbed above $6. In some stores, a single carton crossed $9. Shoppers found empty shelves, purchase limits, and handwritten signs apologizing for the shortage. Eggs, one of the most basic and affordable foods in the country, had become a symbol of inflation. Then, almost as quickly as they rose, the prices fell. By the spring of 2026, eggs had become one of the cheapest items in the store. In some locations, a dozen sold for under $1. The numbers tell the story cleanly. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average price of a dozen grade A large eggs was $5.69 in the first quarter of 2025. By the fourth quarter, it had fallen to $2.79. In January 2026, it was $2.58. By February, $2.50. By March, $2.35. And by April, the average had dropped to $2.25. Year over year, that is a decline of nearly 45%. In March alone, egg prices were down almost 45% compared to the same month a year earlier. For a shopper standing in the dairy aisle, the difference was impossible to miss. The carton that once felt like a splurge was now one of the best deals in the entire store. After a year of rising prices on beef, on produce, on nearly everything, eggs had become the rare item moving in the opposite direction. Emily Metz, president and chief executive of the American Egg Board, summed it up in 5 words. There's never been a better time to buy eggs. But behind that good news for consumers, something more complicated was unfolding. The same crash that delighted shoppers was quietly devastating the farmers who produced those eggs. Because while the price on the shelf had fallen by nearly half, the price paid to farmers had fallen far, far more. And for the people who actually raised the hens, the cheapest eggs in years had become a financial emergency. To understand how the market swung so violently in both directions, you have to go back to what caused the shortage in the first place. It started with a virus. The 2025 egg shortage was not caused by greed or by policy. It was caused by disease. Highly pathogenic avian influenza, commonly called bird flu, first appeared in U.S. commercial flocks in February 2022. Over the next 3 years, it spread relentlessly. By the spring of 2025, the virus had affected more than 169 million birds across all 50 states. The egg-laying hen was hit hardest of all. And the reason losses came in such enormous sudden waves comes down to a single rule. Under U.S. policy, if even one bird in a complex tests positive for the virus, every bird in that complex must be euthanized to stop the spread. Egg operations are often massive, housing 1 to 5 million birds in a single complex. So one detection could erase millions of laying hens overnight. The most lethal stretch came in December 2024 and January 2025, when roughly 41 million birds were culled in just 2 months. With tens of millions of hens gone, the egg supply collapsed and prices spiked to their record high. Then the industry did exactly what you would expect. It rebuilt. Producers restocked their flocks aggressively. Hatcheries ramped up production of young hens called pullets late in 2025, bracing for another difficult flu season in the spring. By early 2026, the national laying flock had been rebuilt to around 308 million hens. At the same time, the virus eased. Bird flu detections fell roughly 45% year over year in early 2026. The outbreaks that did occur in states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin were small enough that the rebuilt supply simply absorbed them. By May, fewer than 10,000 birds were affected for the entire month. The result was a flood of eggs. There was one more factor. During the shortage, many large buyers, restaurants, bakeries, and food manufacturers switched from shell eggs to liquid and processed egg products. When prices fell, a lot of those buyers did not switch back. Demand for shell eggs settled well below its historical norm, even as supply surged. Sherman Miller, the chief executive of cal-maine Foods, the largest egg producer in the country, described the situation plainly. What we're seeing in the market today is much more about supply recovery and timing shifts than any fundamental change in consumption. In other words, the birds came back. The supply caught up, and then it overshot. More eggs were being produced than the market could absorb. For shoppers, that meant cheap eggs. For farmers, it meant something very different. Here's the part of the story that surprises almost everyone. The crash in egg prices that help consumers has been crushing the people who produce them. The reason is the gap between two different prices. While the retail price of eggs fell about 62% from a year earlier, the price paid to farmers fell 93%. By April 2026, the national wholesale price for loose eggs had dropped to 22 cents a dozen. Breaker eggs, the kind used for liquid egg products, fell to around 8 cents a dozen. That is roughly 96% below the year before. Those prices are far below what it costs to produce an egg. David Anderson, an agricultural economist, put it bluntly when describing the wholesale price farmers were receiving. That's an extremely low price. We're into the territory where it's probably below producers' production cost. The problem is that a farmer's cost did not fall along with the price. Thomas Flacco, chief executive of egg producer Pete & Jerry's, explained that about half the cost of a dozen premium eggs is feed, and feed has stayed expensive since 2022. Fuel costs rose. Labor and biosecurity costs kept climbing. All of those cost pressures are finding their way into our cost structure, Flacco said. You can see the squeeze in the books of the largest producer in the country. Cal-Maine Foods reported that for the quarter ending in February 2026, net sales fell 53% to $667 million. Gross profit dropped 83%. Net income fell 90%. Even the biggest player in the industry saw its profits collapse as prices normalized. And egg farmers have almost no protection. Unlike corn, cattle, or wheat producers, egg farmers have no futures market, no insurance program, and no hedging tools to cushion a price swing like this. The American Farm Bureau warned that prolonged below break-even prices could force farms out of business and accelerate consolidation across the industry. There is one more twist. Many farmers are reluctant to cut back their flocks, even though it would help prices recover, because they remember 2025. Nobody knows when the virus will return. Cutting birds now could leave them short if another outbreak hits, so the eggs keep coming. The prices stay low, and the market sits in an uneasy balance. For now, the American shopper is enjoying something rare in 2026, a grocery staple that actually got cheaper. But the same forces that delivered that bargain are quietly reshaping who will still be in the egg business when the next outbreak arrives. The cheapest eggs in years came at a cost. It just landed on the farm instead of the checkout line.